All right, welcome back, Inebri-arts. This is Andy, the Inebri-art podcast. We are back again at the Craft Beer Cellar on Main Street in Plymouth, our kind of home away from home. If you like beer and boutique wine, you can stop in. They now have CBD-infused drinks as well, and like a charcuterie, which I think I got the pronunciation. See, I screwed up pronunciation. Surprising. Charcuterie station with cheese and bread and whatnot, snacks. So check it out if you're in town. And today's guest I met quite a few years ago.
A long time ago.
Yeah. And we've just been kind of like peripherally, in the Plymouth scene. And so Gretchen Almy. Almy? Is that the correct
Almy,
name?
yeah.
Almy?
That's right.
It's probably the first name in like 140 episodes that I've ever gotten correct. So you are a visual artist, but you specialize in animal portraits.
Yes.
How did you end up so focused on that?
Probably starts from when I was a kid. I was just really... we had a pet dog, and when I was about 6, I learned how to ride horses, and my dad's family's from Westport, Massachusetts, and there's a farm there.
Farm country
from,
there.
Yeah, from the 1740s, and they rehabbed a lot of race horses, and I just, really just fell in love with horses and dogs and any animal at that point, and, just as any kid, sketched, and I sketched what I loved.
Right, yeah.
So that's kind of where it started, and it's not where it ended up in school. Every teacher kind of steered me away from animals. I think
Really?
They were trying to get me to expand and do something different and, do still lives and all the traditional school teachings in the arts.
Right.
And even in college, they kind of tried to steer me away, but I always ended up back.
I always thought it was funny, like when I was a kid, I was big into like metal music, and I drew like skulls and skeletons, and all through like junior high and high school, they were like, oh, try this and still lifes, and then you get to college and they're like, all right, first thing we're drawing skulls, and you're like, oh, I feel like I'm right back, where I started. So I believe when I first met you, you were trying to get a little away from like really photorealistic to like not impressionistic, but a little more.
Yeah, a little bit more painterly.
Yeah. Is that something you're still working on, or?
Yeah, so I started the business over 20 years ago,
yeah.
And I did it mostly through friends, and I did it solely with pencil because that's where I felt like my expertise was in terms of realism, and it's something that I could do well.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt it was sellable because I did it because I love it, but I also did it as a side business, and I still continue to do so, and it's more than a side business now. So I did pencil realism for probably the first 5 to 6 years of actually doing it on the side professionally, and then my background's actually in oil. I actually have my degree from a liberal arts school in Virginia, but it was in painting.
Mm-hmm.
And what I painted in college was much more abstract expressionism.
Yeah.
Completely opposite of realism. So I always wanted to get back to that route. And so I started doing realist paintings to see if I could actually do it. And I could. And that...
Now, did you find, was there like... did it take you a while to get adjusted to it, or was it something you just kind of picked up?
So... It did because I wanted to paint loose.
Yeah.
And so because it was still about being a business, I pursued what I thought my clients wanted, which was realism. And I struggled because I kept wanting to be more painterly.
Yeah.
And so finally, as you know, as what you're referring to, is probably about, 10 years in to my business, I decided to branch out a little and play around with some... First, I had people just submit photographs, and I paint them however I wanted.
Yeah.
And just see what people's reactions were. And I started to get really positive feedback. So now I do 2 lines. I do a photorealistic line in pencil and oil, and then I do one in sketches and painterly oils. And then now I'm doing a lot more of my own original work that is not commission-based at all.
But still animal?
Still animal. The horse is the muse. Definitely not the dog, just the horse right now, and it's pushing the horse to abstraction. That's my goal.
Oh, okay.
You haven't seen too much of that work
No,
yet.
I haven't seen any of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm working at.
So why did you decide to... Are you just kind of getting tired of the photorealistic thing, or
It's what I always wanted to do.
yeah,
But in terms of a business, I thought that best to go with what I knew my friends wanted and would purchase. And in terms of saleable goods,
yeah,
being in the equestrian world my whole life, very traditional kind of environment,
yeah,
traditional sport, very old sport. Everybody who seemed to do artwork for that industry focused on photorealism portraits of their horses and dogs. So I thought, as a business, that's probably the way to go. And in hindsight, I kind of regret maybe not developing my own style earlier on and seeing if that would have been enough to sustain my business by creating my own style. So instead of making that my number one goal now is to go back to my roots of abstract expressionism and just keep pushing the envelope and see where it takes me. And I'd love to get a body of work together to show it just of that work that's completely separate and very different than what I've been doing for the past 20 years.
And you have a studio over in the old Waterworks building here in Plymouth.
I do.
And there's some amazing artists in there.
Yes.
Do you find inspiration from, talking and collaborating with them? Or
Absolutely. That's actually why I was looking for a space. I used to work out of my house, and I was looking for a collaborative environment where there were other artists that I could talk to and get feedback from. And it's interesting because they're all fairly abstract. They are the artists that are in that building. And
I don't... is it Sue in the back?
Yep.
And she's very abstract.
Susan,
very,
and so's Linda.
Yeah.
And even Judy.
Yeah.
She's... she kind of crosses between some realism and some abstraction, but Linda's completely abstract these days, and Susan goes back and forth between some landscape abstraction and then some completely off the wall
I think
stuff.
the last stuff I saw her working on was like paintings of shadows.
Yeah, she does a lot with the human form. I think she's just like, as any artist, just kind of expressing herself and figuring out. Sometimes you put it on canvas, you have no idea where it's going to go. Other times you have an instant vision, and other times you have a vision, you can't paint it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't come out. It just doesn't come out the way you have it in your head.
Now, where you do a lot of photorealism, does that ever get kind of redundant? Do you ever kind of want to... I mean, obviously you want to do more abstract because that's what you're doing, but is it a chore sometimes now that you've been doing it for so long?
I used to joke around that pencil was called painstaking pencil.
Yeah.
Because on large pieces, I had a piece a few years back that absolutely loved doing, but it was 5 horses in one drawing, all photorealistic, and it was a challenge. Just laying them out was a challenge because 3 of the horses had passed for the portrait, so I was working on 3 old photographs as reference.
Trying to combine them into one?
And put them, and then put them together and then create a layout that actually made sense. And that was difficult. But the one thing that I always find in my process, even in photorealism, especially in photorealism, I should say, is that when I start working on a piece, it's kind of like the ugly duckling stage where you do a layout, you sketch it out, it still hasn't really formed to where you want it to be, and then it starts to come to life. And it truly, for me, it kind of sounds hokey after a while, but I feel like I'm right there with the horses, and I can be working on a nostril, and it's like they're snorting.
Yeah.
Or you're working on an eye, and there's a spark that just comes. It's like they literally, for me, they almost become 3D off the paper as I'm creating them, and it happens in oil too. But is it tedious? Yes, there are moments where. That's the beauty of my art. I have such a variety. I have such a way that I don't have to focus on one thing. So if I'm getting tired of doing my photorealistic pencil, I jump into a loose oil and just change it up.
So you can have a couple projects going at the same time so you can jump around?
Yeah, and that's helped out a lot.
Yeah.
When I was just doing just the pencil or just the oil, that was tough.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I just get tired. Your eyes get tired.
Right, yeah. And I feel like it's even worse when you're struggling with a like one section or some anatomy or whatever. When you really struggle, like almost you get too overconscious and you're thinking too much about it and not you're not loose and relaxed.
Well, it's kind of like that old adage where you kind of have to step back.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have to step back from a painting to truly take it all in and see the areas that you need to work on. And in pencil, sometimes you just need to take a break.
Yeah.
And then come back with fresh eyes. And sometimes you see it totally different the next time you come and see it. So
now, do you, when you're working on these portraits, do you have kind of like a pattern that you tend to work in? Do you like work from the head and then to the body, or do you try and kind of like evolve the whole piece in one kind of like stage?
Well, that's interesting because I've actually studied a lot of other portrait artists,
Mm-hmm.
and I've noticed a lot of them tend to work from kind of left to right or top to bottom or side to side or like ear to the neck. They go kind of fill it in as they go. I jump around. I find I work on an area that I'm passionate about and I'm really getting into, and it's coming out the way I want it to.
Mm-hmm.
And I stick in that area. And then if I move away from it, sometimes I lose that motivation, or sometimes I find other motivations. So I definitely hop around a piece, and for me, I think that's what also gives it its depth.
Yeah.
Because I'm constantly looking at it from kind of a different perspective, and not always one, has to be exact from point A to point B.
So do you kind of step back and be like, oh, this section or, paw or whatever isn't where the rest of the painting is, and you start working on that?
Yeah, it's not dark enough, or let's say it starts to come forward. It's like, especially in pencil, that 5-horse piece I was talking about, they're all different colors. How do you do that in pencil? Pencil's truly a gray medium. It's not even black.
Right.
And how do you make it if you've got a black horse and you've got a gray horse and you've got a brown horse? And
how do you make the brown horse brown and the gray horse gray?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you do that? And it's all about tonality. It's all about layering. Pencil for me is truly about, sculpting on paper and creating those depths to create the color. And so all this, I start with the darker horses first, because I know that's going to be the area I'm going to have to keep going back into. So I'll get to an area where I think that horse is dark enough. I'll work on the next one. I'll step back and go, okay, that one needs to be even darker. I'll have to keep layering into it.
So one thing that I talk to a lot of artists about is that when is it done moment, and not overworking it. Is there like, do you have a trick? Is there like when do you decide it's done?
Portraiture is easier than abstraction for me.
Yeah.
And some people will say the other. I say it's easier for me maybe just because I've been doing it for so long, so I kind of get a feel for when it is done. Like I say, when it starts to change from being kind of in that ugly duckling stage to starting to come to life on the paper, I can start to see that I'm on the kind of home curve, or I'm almost there. It's getting there. In abstraction, I can just paint and I can get it to a place I love and destroy it 2 seconds later and just want to kill the canvas. And I mean, it's a totally different process.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more for me to figure out in abstraction. I have an idea in my head and I overthink everything. In abstraction, and it needs to be the opposite.
Do you think it's just because you've done so much more photorealistic, where it kind of comes more naturally? It's just something you're more accustomed to. I'm
sure that's part of it. It's almost like yin and yang. I'm kind of trying to say, all right, I got to get away from realism. How do I do that? And I have an idea on how to do it. And yet, if you look at, take Picasso. If you look at his really early works, he was an incredible renderer. He could draw. Yeah. But he developed Cubism. How did he do that? Through a process. So I take that as encouragement when I get frustrated, because I'm like, well, if he just kept pushing the envelope until he figured out his voice. And that's what I'd like to do. So even though I'm a commission artist, I'd love to be a fine artist that focuses on something besides just commissions. But yeah, it's sometimes I feel a little bit caught between the two. Like, realism? Nope. Push it. Abstraction. Loosen up.
And it is a struggle, just from a, I guess, retail standpoint. It's a lot easier to sell photorealistic.
Absolutely.
Than fine art or something.
And if you're doing it as a business, which I am. Yeah. My passion is in abstraction. My business is in realism. I mean, And it's funny, though, because the more I challenge my original work and my abstraction I haven't gotten it to the point where I wanted to, but some of my earlier works, which are kind of a cross between the equine form with much more painterly strokes, much more bright, fun, funky colors. I'm starting to sell those, and I post them on social media, and they sell right away. So that's been kind of an encouraging viewpoint, like, oh, people
do like that.
They do like that, and are they liking it because they're collectors of mine, or are they liking it for what it is, or are they liking it for the color?
Right.
And I try to get some feedback, because I don't want to paint to always please the consumer. That's never my interest, but at the same time, if I can paint something that's going to also sell,
right,
that's a plus. It's a win-win.
You don't necessarily want to please the consumer, but you want to make stuff that people appreciate.
Right. People appreciate, they enjoy, it resonates with them, just like any art. You walk into a museum and you can be like, I love that piece. I hate that piece. I don't know what that piece is. I don't know where that artist came up with that idea.
There's a lot of that, like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So you talk about being a portrait artist, which, I mean, I'm not saying that you're not, but it's weird to think of, like, so many people think of their pets as people.
Yes.
You know? Is it easier or more difficult to get a likeness from a pet than it is a person? Because I know getting you can draw something that looks human, but to make it look like a specific human is really difficult, because you have to figure out what makes that person looks like that person. Is it easier with a horse or a dog? Or
I think it's relative to the artist. I've seen a lot of artists who will do pet portraits who have a technique from an artistic perspective, but maybe not necessarily an animal person. And therefore, I feel that some of those pieces of work that I've seen by certain artists I've seen fall flat, and lose that kind of spirit of the animal per se. So being an animal person, since I was born, I mean, I gravitate to animals more than I gravitate towards people. Sorry, but it's true.
I get it.
I find it more of a natural knack to create portraits of animals and be able to capture that spirit. I find it innate. It's just something that, to me, I just can look at an eye and know if it's wrong.
Yeah.
In terms of my rendering, is it not quite there? If I look at a person, so when I first started doing this, I had people say, "Oh, can you draw my daughter with her pony?" And I'd say, "I just do horses, or dogs. I do not do people." And the reason for that is I had somebody come to me and say, okay, well, if I do this, it was an adult amateur rider, so somebody probably in their 30s, and with a beautiful horse, and she was beautiful, and she was like, "Can you make me look like I'm 20 pounds lighter?" And I was like, oh, no, this is not a road I want to ever go down.
Right.
Because we're our own worst critics.
Yeah.
So to have to go down that road, the pressure was too much. I didn't want that. I didn't want my business to become something I didn't still love. And I still do love what I do. Some people say, oh, if you turn art into a business, you're not going to enjoy it anymore. That's not true for me.
Yeah.
I enjoy every piece I work on. Yes, there's times where it's frustrating and irritating and whatever, but in general, like, if going back to your question, yes, animals come much easier for me than people. But I'm doing a lot more people, ironically.
Really?
And it's becoming not people portraits per se, but with their animals. Someone wants a portrait of their kid with their dog,
I can see that, yeah.
And I'm doing more of that. And I'm just finally just being like, I'll put it out there, see what happens. And, it's not as hard as it was probably 20 years ago. And that's probably just practice, skill set, head games, letting some of that go, and just being like, I'll just do it.
I feel like as I get older, I get more patient.
Yeah, me too.
And it was always like this rush or this need to, be as good as this person, or work as quickly as and now I'm just like, now I just want to do something that I feel like I am happy with. And I'd say about 60% of the time I'm happy with stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm 100% happy either.
Yeah.
There's plenty of times where I'll get to a point where I'll be like, okay, this is as good as I can make it.
Yeah.
There's not, like, and it can come down to as simple as, I used to be so ridiculously particular, like, I'd have to go photograph the animal. I'd have to work for my own photos. I'd have to do everything. Because what I liked about that, especially in horses and in dogs, I love to see the interaction between the owner and the animal and capture that on the camera, because there's a relationship that's going on between the owner and the animal that the owner's going to see. So when they pick that image that they want to have drawn or painted, they're picking one that speaks to them, resonates with them, and says something like that. Oh, that's exactly that look he gives me, or that's that cute face he makes, or that cute inquisitive curl, or whatever. And to me, that was really important. Still is important, but in today's world, that's really difficult, and it makes business that much harder because you're trying to figure out a way to go drive out to somebody's house or somebody's barn and get the photographs, and is the person going to be there, and how do you get the timing? And I work other jobs to be able to support my art, and there's just only so much time. And I started when you asked me earlier about getting into a little bit looser form. I started my second line, which I call Custom on a Budget. And so people submit their photographs. I no longer, for those pieces, I do not require to go photograph the animals. So in that regard, you never know what you're going to get. You can get a camera phone photo that's incredibly pixelated and low resolution and dark and in shadows, and you can try to say to the customer, basically, your portrait's going to be as good as the photo you submit. Yeah. But the average person doesn't necessarily the artistic process behind that and what that really means.
I've had a few people request some commission work, and they're like, oh, I want you to draw some family members, and then you get these 1930s photographs and you're just like, it's not even a close-up picture of the person.
So that the face is like 1 by 1. You blow it up to like a 5 by 7, and you're like, it's all dots, blur. And then
you do your best, and like, well, it doesn't really look like them. I'm like, but it looks like the picture you sent me. I don't, it's really tough to do some stuff like that. So
that's why I try to steer away from some of it, and that's why even in my Custom on a Budget line, it's called Custom on a Budget for a reason. It's smaller. It's a sketch or a painterly painting, so it's not about photorealism. It's about a rendering. Yeah. It's about getting an idea of what it is you're submitting, because I don't want to work that small in photorealism, for one thing, and I do, if it's going to be to the quality that I've been doing my photorealistic pieces, I need to have the type of image I need to work from. I need to be able to see the detail. I pride myself on pulling out every little nuance about that animal. Which way they're, if they have a cowlick, which way their mane falls to, which way, if they've clipped their ears, if they have long whiskers, if they have a funny marking, if they have an indentation in their muscle, if their jaw is different, if they droop their lip a little bit. All these things matter to, I described it to someone one day. They said, well, don't you just make every eye or nose the same? I mean, it's just a black lab. And I'm like, I'll show you. So I pulled out 2 drawings of black labs I did. Yeah. One's much more of a old English, thick, big-bodied lab with a big box head, and he looks like he should just be sitting in a sofa smoking a cigar. Yep. And then another is of this little American lab who's smaller, a little bit leaner, smaller head. It's got a stick in its mouth, like, fetch, fetch, fetch. I just want to play. Let's play. Right. And I was like, here are 2 purebred labs. There's nothing alike in these 2 personalities. And I said, that's what it's about. It's really trying to capture something that's about, it's not a breed. It's about Joey, your pet. Yeah. It's not, and that's, I think that's what's helped with my success, is that I've had a lot of people say to me that you've truly captured my animal.
And that has to be easier to kind of capture that personality when you meet it in person, opposed to just a cell phone picture or whatever.
Yep.
Do you find, is there like a specific size that you like to work in? Because I tend to do a lot of sketching in smaller sketchbooks just because they're portable and easy to get around.
Of course.
And then because, my infinite wisdom, I left my sketchbook at work the other day and had to kind of run home and just grab a sketchbook that was laying around. It was much bigger, and I hadn't worked in that size in ages, and it was kind of like refreshing, and I felt like I was able to do a lot more of what I wanted to do. So now I'm thinking maybe I should do more of that. But
I think you're onto something, though. I mean, if you think back to art school or any art teacher you've ever had, what's one of the first things they tell you to do to free up is to go bigger.
Yeah.
I did a project with I did a thing in college at the Vermont Studio School, and it was just like a week-long thing over Christmas break. And I studied with an artist, Hugh O'Donnell, who I think teaches at, or did teach at Mass College of Art. I don't know if he's still there, but he's a well-known English artist, does very large pieces. And all we could use during this week-long session was paper, black oil pastel, turpentine, powdered graphite, and I think just pencil or just graphite sticks, and charcoal sticks.
Okay.
And that's all we could use. And we could paint in whatever style or whatever, and draw or whatever we wanted. We had like a 10-foot by 10-foot wall space that we could work on. And he was just there to kind of work through whatever it is. He wanted to take color out of it. He wanted to get you to free up and go large and just explore and try. And I mean, I went into that class and I just looked at that big white wall and was like, what the heck? I don't know how I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know what he wants from me. And so I sat there and I stared at it, and I got more and more depressed and frustrated, and I was like, I'm out of my league here. What am I doing? I have no idea how to approach this huge wall.
Yeah.
And he comes in and he goes, what's your problem? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, well, what do you feel like doing right now? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you want to go for a run? You want to go to a movie? What do you want to go do? Go do it. Come back. So I'm like, all right. So I went for a run. I came back. He's like, you feel any better? And I was like, nope. And he was like, all right. He's like, so what do you want to, what are you going to draw? What are you going to paint? And I was like, well, everybody tells me not to do the horse. He's like, I don't care. Do the horse. He's like, so he starts talking to me about, what does the horse mean to you? And I was like, spirit and energy and beauty and, all the classic things that a horse is. Powerful, yet fragile. They're just amazing athletes, amazing creatures. And he was like, okay. He's like, now go to the local library and go find some inspiration of horses painted throughout history. And so I went over and I got some paintings from the Italian Renaissance, which were over-stylized horses, over-musculatured horses.
Yep.
I went in and picked up some pieces like from Franz Marc, which are very Asian-influenced horses, very rotund and round with short legs.
Yep.
And I think I looked at some Brunelleschi's, also very powerful horses. And he's like, great. And then I went a little bit further back. My grandmother had given me a book years ago when I was a kid of a Frederick Remington book. And he's a prominent Western artist. He's also a Western sculptor. And he painted the West and the Western cowboys and the whole scenes that went on. He basically
did like a lot of, did he work in copper or bronze?
Bronze.
Yeah.
Did a ton of bronze.
I know what you're talking about.
And he and Charles Russell were like the painters of the American West.
Yeah.
And what I liked about Remington over Charles is I felt like Remington really kind of captured that spirit, that energy.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I in this class, Hugh O'Donnell said to me, he's like, all right, well, pick a few of these pieces, and he's like, and then do me a favor. He's like, do a few sketches. I'm like, all right, so I do a few small sketches.
Yep.
Okay, answer to your question, long way to get there, but, and then he says to me, and I still look at that big wall, and I just don't even know how to approach it. He's like, go to the grocery store. I'm like, what? He's like, go to the grocery store. Go get some grapes. Okay, bring them back. Okay, so I bring them back. He puts them down on the table and he's like, draw them. But draw them like they're a horse. So in other words, everything that you feel towards the horse, try to embody that in your drawings of grapes. And I was like, okay, how the heck do I do it? He's like, just start. And all it did was free you up.
Yeah.
Because you've got this basic oval shape that you're just repeating, and it's forcing you to, like, you have to use your whole body to get up there on the wall and draw these shapes. And he's like, all right, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get you to loosen up. And so then I got out of the grapes and I started to go take those sketches, and he's like, choose one that you just really like, that resonates with you, and I want you to put it on this wall. And I did, and it was in the end, it was like 6 pieces of paper, like 10 foot by 8 foot wide.
Yeah.
And it was a reproduction of a Remington. And to this day, it was one of my favorite pieces I've ever done. And so, like I say, long answer to your question, I love working large. I would paint 6 foot canvases if I had the space and the time and the money to support it.
Yeah.
I think as an artist, it does so much for somebody. And I think that your experience of saying, oh, wow, look what else I can do, I get the same reaction when I go large. So when I'm working on these small little sketches and things to try to help my business and move forward, I'd rather be working large. And if I'm working in realism, definitely large, because I can get more information from the photograph or the animal in a space than trying to sit there and tediously try to minimize an eye that's a centimeter by a centimeter.
And trying to still capture that same spirit and character.
Exactly. Like they have, horses and animals are larger than life. I mean, if you're an animal person, they're larger than people in personality, I think. Most animals. There's not many people I've met in my life who can resonate the same kind of energy and lust for life that an animal can. That unconditional love, that I just want to play, that, oh my goodness, you're home, thank God, I don't know what I have done all day without you. You know, what person...
I love that.
Yeah, they just... Animals have a special piece about them that I just don't think people... We're different creatures. And that's as simple as it gets, but... that spirit in those animals is what drives me. That's what makes me want to be able, when your animal's no longer with you, I want you to be able to look at that picture on your wall and feel like they're still alive right there next to you. You know, I think that's what drives me. I want to be able to, like, give back to these, you know, these people who love these animals like I do, and yet they have short lives.
Yeah.
They don't have people lives, you know. We're lucky if they live 10 years, or in horse years, maybe 20, 25.
Now, do you get requests for other animals?
Yes.
Like parrots, tortoises, cats, I guess.
I've done a few cats. I've done a guinea pig.
A guinea pig?
I have. I've done a pot-bellied pig.
Oh, nice.
Yep. Yeah. Recently asked about doing a rat, a pet rat.
An interesting one.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you just never know.
Is there a breed or type of dog or horse that you struggle with, that you don't enjoy doing, like particular kind, like, oh, I really just don't like Chihuahuas? Or
I don't have issues with any specific breed, but in terms of technique, I will say the smooth-coated animals are easier for me to draw because they're more like a horse. Like, take a Doberman. It's a nice smooth coat in there, or a pit bull. You know, they're just got these beautiful coats and their muscular shines through. Yep. Just like a horse. You take a Portuguese water dog.
He's just a big mop.
He's just a big mop. or a poodle.
Yeah.
And you're like, where's the muscle?
Yeah.
And it's not about the muscle, it's about the fur. And so that fur can be tedious to me at times. And you know, I did 2 Springer Spaniels. They were just head portraits, but painting of the fur is easier for me to achieve than the drawing. The drawing really has to be more particular, really pulling out each and every little curl and twist of that fur to really make it about that animal. Painting, I feel like I can get those nuances easier. Yeah. But drawing it, definitely the curlier and wavier the coat, the more tedious it can be. When it's done, I still love it, but
Right.
it can take me longer to get there because I get, and also sometimes you're like, okay, I was on that curl. Is that the same curls I was just looking at, or is that the curl below that curl?
Been 1, 2, 3, 7 girls. Damn it!
I need to go back.
So how did you said you've been doing this for like 20 plus years? How did you build your clientele? I mean, obviously you started with friends, but did you go to dog shows and horse shows and kind of set up and be like, hey, I do pet portraits? And
Yep. I did old school. I went to mostly horse shows because I was already in the horse industry. I'd managed horse farms when I was, out of college, and I rode my whole life growing up. I did intercollegiate horseback riding. So I had already connections in the horse world.
Yep.
So I decided, be a vendor at a couple booths. And the first show I did, they had actually asked me to design a program cover for their horse show.
Oh, okay.
And instead of getting paid for it, they gave me a booth space. And so it was kind of a bartering situation.
Right.
I found that happened a lot in the horse show world. And I was like, let's see, because I'm just trying to get my name out there and see what it's all about. And so I did that. And that was the, let's see, I forget what year it was. But it was over 20 years ago. And to this day, I'm still friends with the clients I met at that show.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they've hired me to do numerous portraits over the years, and I've stayed in touch with them beyond business. One of them was a gentleman who is a big CEO. He was in, I forget all the different industries, but mapping industries, and he's a big show jump rider, and he wrote a book on some of the best show jumpers in the world, and he asked me to photograph them. So I did about 60% of the photographs in the book for him, and it was awesome because I was able to meet gold medalists from the Olympics, from the United States, but also from Ireland, Canada, just all over the place, and that was really, and that was all from a connection from the very first horse show I went to exhibit my work at. So these relationships from there helped. So a lot of word of mouth, more horse shows. If I don't have to do another show, I would be happy. But that's not reality.
Right.
As time went on, social media, huge help. Some email marketing, not as good as as I should be.
Yeah.
Handwritten notes, old school marketing. But I'm finding in today's world, social media is the number one.
Just for the sheer amount of time invested with, the return on that time is huge.
Huge.
Because it's very easy. You can do it pretty much anywhere.
Yep.
Is there a specific platform that you find works better? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram?
So I think for my generation, it's more Facebook. For my younger fans, it's definitely more Instagram, Snapchat. I'm not as active on either of those platforms as I am on Facebook. I definitely find Facebook has been my number one in terms of selling. But I've recently had a huge uptick in Instagram, and it's the first time I've had an uptick in Instagram since I've been on Instagram. I've had a lot of followers, I have a lot of interest, but all of a sudden I'm starting to get orders from Instagram. So before it was solely Facebook. So now it'd be interesting to see in another year if they'll even out or if one will take over the other or how it will work. I won't drop anything, I'll just keep going forward. So see where...
Now, how long is your turnaround time? Like, if someone puts in an order, are they expecting like a 6-month wait, or
It's a really good question, and it's a really hard answer. It depends on how many orders I have in house, what type of orders I have in house. I just recently got an order for a 30 by 40 photorealistic painting commission.
Sounds going to take some time.
That's going to probably take 3 to 6 months.
Yep.
And while I'm working on that, I will be working on, I think I have about 10 sketch orders in-house right now. I have another person who's interested in a painterly piece, so it'll be a smaller painting. I have some pieces that are at a gallery in upstate New York, in Red Hook, New York. It's called the Equus Art Gallery. It focuses only on equestrian artwork.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got some pieces there that I'm trying to get some other pieces to her. I have some pieces in a country store in New Hampshire.
So you have plenty of free time, is what you're saying.
In other words, I have no free time. And I work 3 other jobs.
Yeah.
So turnaround time, I try to stick with the sketches. I try to have 2 to 3 week turnaround time,
mm-hmm.
because I can turn them around a lot quicker.
Yeah.
The paintings, typically there's going to be a wait. And I try to stay as close to the time I quote them, but it can also be a process. When did they get me the photograph?
Right.
Do I have to go meet the animal?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've had a client who contacted me. She's a repeat client. She contacted me probably 2 months ago. And the weather's been so cold this spring, she wants me to come out, photograph the horse. It hasn't been good timing yet. We're not meeting until, I won't meet her until probably next week. And so I don't even have a photograph to work from yet. So that order it's going to start when I get the photo.
Has there been like one moment in your career where you're like, how is this my job? Like, I mean, you said you know some CEO who's a friend of yours, and you get to go see these animals, and you've met these Olympic athletes. Is there any point where you're like, how did I get here?
There have been many points, and just awe instances. Years ago, when I was a kid, the National Horse Show used to be held at Madison Square Garden,
mm-hmm.
and I grew up in Connecticut, and for my birthday, it always fell around my birthday, which is in November. So my mom, who is allergic to horses, would take me to this show, which is in Madison Square Garden. It's, in essence, an indoor arena,
yep.
which makes allergies 10 times worse.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So she would suffer through this horse show with me, and it was phenomenal. I loved it. I watched some of the best competitors in the world compete in the show jumping class, as well as the hunter jumper stuff, which is the lower levels, but they're also some of the best in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just this magnificent thing. And then in high school, they decided to move it to the Meadowlands.
Okay.
And then it started to slowly but surely move out of New York, and it ended up, I think, finally in Florida, and now I think it's in Kentucky. And when it was in Florida, it was in a place called Wellington, which is a big equestrian community just south of West Palm Beach.
Okay.
And it's a big horse show facility. They run a 14-week show in the off season. And all the people come from all over the world to compete there. And they ran the National Horse Show there for a few years. And they asked a bunch of artists to basically do a rendering of the old school interpretation of, so that the National Horse Show's logo or cover program was always a gray horse with a gentleman in a top hat, fox hunting, jumping over a split rail fence.
Mm-hmm.
And like that was just the logo. It was really old school, and with a fox hunting whip and everything. I mean, it was classic.
Yeah.
And they did a contest, so you do your own interpretation of that design, and I got it. I won it, and so I was able to go. They asked me to come, and I could have a booth for free
mm-hmm.
at this horse show, and I was like, I have to go.
Yeah,
I have to go down there. Well, while I was there, they had some big reception. I can't even remember what the party was celebrating, but it was basically where all the bigwigs go for, a cocktail party, and they connect with everybody. And it was all in celebration of, I'm sure, the National Horse Show and other stuff that was going on that week. And I was invited. I was able to go. And that's when I met one of my all-time favorite competitors in the show jumping world as a kid, which was Michael Matz, and he then became a top racehorse trainer as well. And I got to meet him. I got to meet I think the mayor was there. I got to meet the Jacobs family, who are very involved in horses, and the Jacobs are the owners of the Bruins.
Oh, yeah.
Charlie Jacobs is a big rider, and it was their farm. This big party was going on.
Oh, wow.
And I was, so that was an awe moment where I was like, here I'm in this, in this world that I love of horses, and amongst some of the most elite in the world of horses. It's kind of like being amongst the Patriots,
right?
If you want to relate to football, hanging out with Tom Brady. To me, that was hanging out with Michael Matz or Charlie Jacobs or McLean Ward or BZ Madden or all these people I've been able to meet. Chris Kapler. I mean, just phenomenal riders, and down-to-earth horse people. And the best part of it is you realize that, and I've never met Tom Brady, so I can't comment on him, but the best part of it is they're pretty down-to-earth people. All of a sudden you just realize no matter how successful and how wealthy and how much you've achieved in this world, you're still human.
Yeah.
You're still a person. And so that was kind of that awe moment where I was like, now I'm amongst all these people, and my art got me here, and my love of animals got me here, and yet they're still just people, and it's still just a really cool world, and we're not all as far removed as we think we are.
Right. Yeah.
So.
That's awesome. Well, where can our listeners go to see your work, request a commission, that sort of thing? So
I have a website, www.galmy, which is Gretchen, is the G, Almy is my last name, designs, DESIGNS.com. So galmydesigns.com. I'm also on Facebook. Mm-hmm. I do have a business page under Gretchen Almy. My Instagram account is hashtag #GAlmyDesigns. Mm-hmm. I don't know what my Snapchat is.
There's probably a link maybe on your website?
Yes, there's links on it, on everything. And you can see a little bit of everything. I also have I even have a store. I do have e-commerce off my website. Mm-hmm. You can order a sketch directly. Getting into the higher end commissions, you have to talk to me, message me, and tell me what it is you're looking for.
Yeah, because that's more size and time, and it's not just a
And sometimes they want more than one animal, or it's truly custom.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad we finally had a chance to sit down and talk.
Me too.
This was great.
I really appreciate you having me.
We've known each other for a while, and I feel like we've known each other, but I feel like now we know each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we hope to see more horses and dogs and abstract.
Yeah, wait till you see the abstract.
Yeah, I'm going to have to swing by your studio sometime and check that out. So I'm looking forward to that.
Cool.
So thanks again.
Thank you.
And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.